to Poppy's Creations. Jan here. For anybody that's new, I aim to recycle or upcycle fabrics and anything else I can find, whether it be at charity shops or it's been given to me, or even out of my own wardrobe. And if I'm not upcycling as such, I suppose I am really, because it's all stuff that's was intended maybe for some other reason, but I'm trying to make it into something else. I last week did an upcycle, which was a camisole top of mine and a scarf, which made a, as it turned out, more like a dress because it was longer than I thought it was going to be. And this week I'm doing something similar, but this time it's a t-shirt top and a scarf. Now this t-shirt was quite long and I never wore it because, as you've probably seen in some of my videos, especially on the Poppy's France, you'll see that I've got a few lumps and bumps and this was quite clingy and I never felt confident wearing it, so it just sat there. So I thought, well, I need to be doing something else with it. So what I've done, I cropped it to just under the bust, as I did with the camisole. So now it looks like that. It's shorter, and I found that in my scarves I had a black and white scarf, which again was very, very sheer. I'll put some stills in as usual and show you just how sheer it is, because you can see my hand through it, and what the t-shirt sort of looked before, just showing you the two parts where I've cropped it. As again, I've prepared, so I've already serged, but what I've done, this time, whereas last time I did two different lengths, I've kept them the same because it's so sheer, and so I've got a double thickness all the way around, so you can't see through it as much now, and that will all be gathered up or pleated in. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do it yet, but it'll be pleated in somehow or gathered in to fit the top. Then I'll be using a zigzag stitch again, because as I said before, a zigzag helps it to still stretch, because you're going to use something that isn't stretchy with something that is. Now I had a sudden thought last night that because this time I've decided not to put a frill on it, it's going to be flat, so seam to seam, and then flat as you would with any sort of dressmaking or anything, that I would put a little trim over the seam somewhere, near the seam somewhere, just to add a little bit extra. So I've been going through my trim box, and I've got this one, there's another one, but initially I thought, right, to narrow this down, I've obviously got to get in my what colour I want to use, and it's obviously going to be, well, it doesn't have to be, but for me I want it to be black or white. So I found my white bag of trims and I found my black bag of trims. So the next challenge was to find, again, to say these are being recycled or they've just oddments that I've got laying around, that I decided I found black ones that were more suitable, because I didn't want it too wide, didn't want it too narrow so that you didn't even notice it. So that sort of width, you can see properly there on my hand, that sort of width, I think that will be about right. And what I'll do, I'll place that on the white side so that it stands out. I did think about doing one in white but put it on the black so it stood out, but in the end it all came down to what I had the most of. And I've got a choice of two. This one is slightly narrower, you can see there, so I'm not quite sure which one I'm going to use for sure, but you'll see the finished product. And they will be again zigzagged on to allow for the stretch. So I'm just going to have a little bit of organisation, tidy up, and get myself ready to start tacking these together, and then you'll see what happens next. Now, as I did with the last one, I'm using the dental floss for the gathering stitch. Okay, so I'm going to do about a 1/2 inch from the top and just basically weave the needle in and out of my fabric like that. So I don't know if you can see there. It's basically all it is, just weaving it in and out. Those of you who didn't see the last video, I was given the tip to use dental floss because it's waxy and it slips through easier. It's craft day again today, so I'll be going to Sharon's this time. Unfortunately, I put on 0.6 kilogram, just over a pound. But I do know why, because we've been for 2 meals. We've eaten out twice this week. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. And I'm trying to slowly introduce carbs back in my diet, because I know I cannot give them up totally. So it's just judging how much I can allow my body to have before too much weight gain again. So I just obviously need to cut back on that a little bit. And obviously I've had dessert at both of these meals. You know, that's a given, isn't it? So we had a lovely meal on Monday evening, and then we had another meal yesterday lunchtime. I was introducing Mark and Adam to our local restaurant. No doubt he'll let you know in the comments what he thought of the restaurant. But it was lovely to spend time with them and get to know them a little bit more. And then afterwards we went back to their house so Duncan could have a look at the electrical work that needs doing on their house they bought. Hopefully Duncan and I will get out some of this weekend to film. We can try not to let the petrol costs at the moment, as you'll know about, hinder our trips out. But we'll see. Otherwise we'll be trying to do something quite local. I think somebody did ask me how I created the frill on the other top, but it's basically just doing this and just gathering it. It can be a bit fiddly, especially if you've got a quite slippery fabric. But it's, you just gently pull or gather the fabric along the dental floss in this case, and just get it fairly even. And then then the trick is getting it then pinned onto your fabric you want it onto. As I say, this is going to be going, the seams will be inside rather than out, because that's all I did really, was keep the seam on the outside, which was gathered up, whereas this you won't see because it'll be on the inside of the garment. Some of you have shown quite a bit of interest in how Sharon and I created the shirt bottom that you can wear underneath any jumper. I'll slot the photos in here of a couple of photos Sharon took of her wearing hers. And we will do that. It's a fairly simple process, but first thing to do is to find a shirt that actually fits around your stomach and hips comfortably, and then it's just down to how long you want it. So I will use one of my shirts to do that, but Sharon's photos will give you the idea and explain exactly what I was trying to explain to you what it was. I think one of you said that you're quite tall, so that sort of idea is quite good if you have trouble getting jumpers at, you know, a long length. I mean, I sometimes have problems. I'm 5'8" or 171 centimetres. So yeah, I do sometimes have problems, and this jumper I'm wearing today is a little bit shorter than I would normally wear, but because I have been losing some weight, I don't feel quite as self-conscious, which is obviously a good thing. I'm obviously going to speed this up for you because it's quite a long process. But don't forget to be sending in your makes, anything you might be proud of. As I said, I've said in another video, I've got some already, and I'm just trying to get a good selection before I can do another exhibition, as it were. It's always good to see what people get up to, whatever their craft is. Well, as I say, I'm not surprised I put a little bit of weight on, but I've been quite active this week. I've been doing quite a lot of gardening. I was hoping just Sharon with her gardening the other day was her compost bin had collapsed, so everything fell out of it. So we put that together, and then her second compost bin needed turning over really. So we took that one apart, and then we dug that over as well and spread the contents between the two. So we worked quite hard. I tell myself I'm putting on muscle instead. And ironically, the last time I think I stayed the same, it was the week, same as this week, that I felt I did feel that I'd lost, but I'm wondering whether it's because I'm actually using my bike every day. I've toned up a little bit, and then maybe that's why. Because I know this week, I don't know if you remember, when I went through my projects basket, I actually found a pair of jeans that I'd put in there to do something else with, because they were just far too small for me. I couldn't get them round to do them up. And now I can put them on and they fit easily. So you can imagine I was really chuffed the other day. The only thing I would say that I bought them because they're flares, and I don't know, it's me reminiscing back to when I was in my teens, when flares were a thing, and I really think they're quite a flattering cut. So that's the reason why I bought them, which makes me think I might have got them at a boot fair or vide grenier. And I'd forgotten this, so when I put them on, they felt very flared. So I'm now not sure whether to keep them flared or not. I think it depends on how I press them. Remember, I don't know if you did it, but back in the 70s, we used to press a crease in the jeans, whereas we don't do that now. We tend to just iron the jeans flat. So I was wondering if I actually put a crease back in it, whether it would look better, or whether I just need to alter the legs and make them a little bit straighter. We'll see. I'll let you know. Right, so that's all gathered now. So I've got the two ends there. So I say, now we've just got to try and even that gathering, but even the gathers all the way around, and then put the top and the bottom right sides together and pin it, and then tack it again. I decided, after what I said at the start, pleating wasn't an option, because I do have to gather it to get it to the right size, and I think pleating would be just a little bit more difficult for me with this sort of slippery sort of fabric. I can't speak for that. You need to put the t-shirt inside, and so you can see I've got the right side. I'm going to put right side seam to right side seam. That's a good way of lining it up. I think I'm going to use pins, because I think the clips might not hold the gathers as well as I want them to, so they can go out of the way. There's my pins. use this side seam to the other side seam of the scarf. So now, knowing that those two side seams are lined up, I can now just evenly spread out the gathers on both sides. So it's quite a fiddly thing. And the gathers don't always stay where you want them to either. Unless, of course, you use double-sided tape, which I do find very useful a lot of the time. But if I put it on and then I machine stitch through it, I do find my needle starts to stick a little bit. So you have to be very careful where you place the tape. But I think I'm just going to tack it. It's okay. So I need to get my needle and my thread now. So that and with a totally different colour to what this is, because otherwise I'm going to lose it in amongst the gathers. So let's get another colour thread. Will it be good? And my needle. This one. As usual, thread the needle before cutting it off of the actual what do you call it, the bobbin, excuse me. And I again was told that is the best way to ensure that you can thread the needle easier, but I'm struggling today. I promise it works normally. I've got quite a small eye on this needle though. Maybe I could try and get another needle. There we go. Right, so now we need a length of that. You may have noticed I've tried to shorten the videos for you because I don't want you to feel you've got to keep fast forwarding, but it is difficult because obviously I'm trying to show you exactly how I'm doing these things. I'm sure a lot of you know what you're doing and you just need a reminder sometimes, maybe, I don't know. Again, I'll speed this up so you see when I've finished. Decided when Sharon was here last week, she had a huge cover that we were making for her sofa, and she managed to finish that here. And then Sharon, like me, very often burns her arms on the oven or the stove when you're taking things in and out, and she's got scars all over the place. She's worse than me, but she decided that instead of just oven mitts, she needed oven gauntlets. So what we've done is we've done a pattern. I've made it up, it's here somewhere anyway. Just a paper pattern basically of a huge mitten, and we've cut out marked with an erasable pen. We've marked out the fabric, and I think Sharon's cut hers out, and then she's using wadding for the inside because obviously it's to protect from getting burnt still, and then we're going to quilt the mitt, same as I did for my pan holder that I did, and I think she'll be quite pleased with that one that's done. And it's made me think I could do with the same. As I said, I do burn myself. So I've picked out some of the fabric that was in that basket that was given last week, and I'm going to use that. And I picked out a green because I do have a sort of a green theme in my kitchen. So I'm going to have a go myself today and make myself a pair. You may have noticed, or may not have noticed, that I haven't serged the cut end of the top, the t-shirt, and there's no reason for that other than I forgot. But because it's a sort of fabric that doesn't fray, it's not too much of a problem. Or I could do it afterwards. All I've got to do is be careful and run it through the serger afterwards. I can't quite decide what to do next. I think Sharon and I might be line in one of those baskets that I was given last week. So we might do that and show you how we get on with that. And hopefully find some belts that we can reinstall the straps, as it were, that close it up. And I think she's going to keep it in her craft room or somewhere and just store stuff in them. Other than that, I think I've got an itch to make a wraparound skirt, but I can't decide what of my fabrics to use to make one. I quite enjoy hand stitching. And it's because you feel like you've got more control over it. So if I had, that's one lesson learned, if I had serged around the t-shirt edge, it wouldn't keep rolling. If you ever, besides what I've said I like to make and do, if there's anything that you think you would like to see me do, or maybe set me a challenge. I'm up for a challenge when it comes to crafting. Sometimes it depends, depending if I can get the materials or if I've got the materials, should I say? Because I like to use what's here. So depending on that, whether I can do it, it'd be good to hear if there's something that you're not quite sure whether to tackle, and you'd like to see me tackle it. If I do it and it's a disaster, you might decide, oh, that's it, I'm not doing that. But it can be difficult to try and think of projects to do, and obviously initially it wasn't just going to be sewing on this channel, it was going to be all different things, but I tend to veer towards what I know, so it'd be good for someone to set me a challenge. So I've got to get on and do the rest of my grandchildren's portraits that I keep promising I'm going to do. It's funny, years ago I used to hate this part. I just didn't even bother tacking. I don't know if you remember, I said in the early videos, I just used to pin it and sew it because I just hated it. But now I do enjoy it. I mean, if I need to do something really quickly, which is obviously very rare, I might not necessarily, as long as I've got pins and it's not too awkward, I will skip it, but I don't like to, because at least tacking it, it's going to be held in where you want it. And hear the church bells, 11 o'clock. Just double that over. I think I'm going to put a knot there because I can cut it out after. Some people say not to tack, but I do it because otherwise it always comes out. Okay, let's see, make sure again we can still got time to pull it how I want it. It's a little bit more gathers in some places than others. There's still time to move it before it's machine stitched. It's okay that side. See, both sides. I know you won't be able to see the stitches, but there, that's what I've done. Now I'm going to get my machine ready to do the zigzag. I think I'm going to stitch it on the white side so I can see what I'm doing. Again, trying to take it easy because I want to make sure the gathers are in the right place. It's always so tempting to put the foot down and make it go faster, because I'm an impatient person. So I've gone a little bit faster, but I think I'm okay now. Where I can, I like to tie the ends together and then snip them off. So now I'm going to take all the tacking and the gathering thread out.